Former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney hammering home the main theme of his campaign, his business experience. Now we want to talk with someone who's worked for years at the intersection of politics and business, someone who knows Mitt Romney well. He's Glenn Hubbard, one of Mitt Romney's top economic advisors, and of course also the dean of the Columbia Business School, and he was one of the White House chief economist for President Bush from 2001 to 2003. Dean Hubbard, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it. And I want to start, if I could, with the debate over Mitt Romney's years in Bain Capital and in the business community. Isn't it fair for his rivals to challenge his years in private equity and ask him to prove that he did create those 100,000 jobs he claims on his watch?
Well, I think the first backdrop is why we're having this discussion, which is we have a huge jobs deficit in the country. We have enormous structural problems. Fixing that requires somebody who knows how the economy works and knows how to create jobs. I think Governor Romney can do both of that. Of course, anyone's record is fair for examination, but economists, myself included, accept the notion that private equity has done a great service for productivity and, frankly, job creation for the country. To suggest otherwise would be askance with the evidence.
What about the notion here that we heard it from Newt Gingrich this morning here on Bloomberg, we heard it from him yesterday, that there are certain instances in which Bain Capital may have invested a lot of money, taken a lot of money out of those companies that ultimately ended up bankrupt. Newt Gingrich and others suggest that is not private equity at its best. That's something else.
Well, in any private equity transaction, whether it's venture capital in early stage companies or buyouts in later stage companies, there's a lot of risk. That's what business is. The success rates in the industry vary across firms, but they're certainly not 100%. I think that Governor Romney's record in Bain is one that he and his investors can certainly be proud of, and one that's good for our economy.
Newt Gingrich is calling for Mitt Romney to hold a press conference to effectively walk everyone through Bain Capital's deals when he was there. Is that something we're actually going to see?
Look, the real issue facing voters is the question of the jobs problem in the economy and the Obama administration's inability or unwillingness to deal with it. That's the discussion that we ought to be having, not looking over individual private equity deals.
Let me ask you about the Governor Romney's economic agenda, because the other criticism we've heard during the course of this campaign is that it's not bold enough compared to his competitors. Explain to us why Republican voters should look at that plan and decide this is the best plan for the economy if, as some Republicans suggest, it's not that different than President Obama's.
Well, first of all, it's radically different than President Obama's. It understands the structural problems facing the country, the need to bolster saving and investment, the need to get the budget in check. And frankly, it's the only credible plan of any of the Republican candidates. It is the plan that I think has the best chance of raising growth in the economy. So I would dispute the fact that people have asserted it's not radical. It certainly is on the budget.
Let me ask you to put on your political hat here, if I could. He's got the New Hampshire primary here. Are you all prepared in terms of inside the campaign for this to be a lengthy fight to go well past Florida, or could this be wrapped up as soon as South Carolina?
You know, I'm not a political advisor at all. I know that Governor Romney's got the right economic platform. I hope and expect that voters will see that.
And Glenn Hubbard, is it in your view that it's the economy, no matter what, that's going to drive this election, whether it's South Carolina, New Hampshire, or Florida?
There are many factors, obviously, that drive an election for a great country like the United States. But the economy has to be key. Since the financial crisis, we have not recovered as well as we should, and public policy is at least partially responsible for that. Voters have a right to ask for a change.
Glenn Hubbard, we got to leave it there. He's a senior economic advisor to Mitt Romney and his campaign. Of course, also a former economic advisor to President Bush, the Columbia Business School dean. Thanks very much.